Yo, 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 what's up? It's your boy, CD Rome, with another episode of Watch Your Narrative Podcast presents Truth by Rome. So, if you don't know, this is a new podcast. What we focus in on, of course, it's still the same thing, basketball, talking about sports, but then we go a little bit deeper. We talk about, life, we talk about upbringings, marriage, all these different things about life, but then we also keep it within the sports realm. We may talk about fantasy basketball, we may talk about 2K, anything related to sports, anything related to life. So we hope that you appreciate it. We hope that you that you like, subscribe, share. At the end of the video, there would be a spot for you to be able to actually subscribe. That way you can get all the notifications to be able to tune in to all of our episodes. So now we still have our normal podcast, Watch Your Narrative podcast, with all of the panelists that do come out. Those episodes drop on Thursday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Truth by Rome, you will see episodes typically on Monday, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. So without further ado, the guy who is going to be joining me today, I like to call him the GOAT. For those who know, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he called him that again. But I'm just saying, man, like, dude, I'm just saying, he's decorated. He's and we're talking about 2K here. He's decorated and high IQ, and met him one time. He came down to Alabama and showed some love. So happy to have him on. One of those people that we met throughout the game, and think he's a real solid, real good dude. Met his wife, and they just had their lovely first child. So without further ado, happy to invite on Mr. Austin Ravensfan White. Mr. Austin White, man, welcome to the show.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
What's going on, man? I once again, first of all, the beard, brother. The beard, man. It's given.
Thank you.
It's given.
Thank you.
It's really given. Like the first time I met you, in person, this is before
Yeah.
the beard revolution, and you're, how tall are you?
About 6'5".
Okay, you're about 6'5", so you're a big dude. And so
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, and you're barefaced at this time, and I'm like, man, like, dude needs a beard. Because you literally have the mountain man, like the caveman
Yeah.
look right now, and it's solid. It's solid.
I appreciate it.
Solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely not. Definitely not. I've been floating between. My wife keeps saying Viking and farmer.
Yeah.
Depending on the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and I got called Travis Kelsey quite a few times at our last assembly this
Okay.
past weekend.
You know
So
what? I see that.
you
Legit.
know, I don't know if I got the swagger of Travis Kelsey, but maybe at some
He's
point in
smooth.
time.
Yeah, he's smooth.
Yeah.
That's still a compliment, though. That's a compliment.
Yeah.
That's a compliment. Yeah. So, like, what do you use? Because, like, I was,
Nothing.
before we started, like, mine's is like so curly, and I just cannot get it straight like that.
Nothing. This is just how it is.
Natural, man.
Yep.
I tell you, like, mine's is so curly. Like, I mean, I put beard oil, I put everything on that I can, and I just comb it. By the time I walk out the house, whoop, it's like
Yeah.
water hits it, and it's just soaked right back.
So, thankfully, my wife is a cosmetologist, so I have her do all my lineups, make sure everything's even and nice and straight, looking all right.
Oh
So,
man, you got it good. You got it good. And I didn't even know that.
yeah,
I didn't even know that. Yeah, that's
yeah,
good. That's cool. So, like, once again, like I said before, welcome to the show. Only one, when this is coming out, as we're recording this, only one episode has dropped. So you've only been
yeah,
able to like the platform one time. But really, like, what we like to do on here is really just get to know yourself, your
mhm,
upbringing, how you came up, and then we'll kind of get into, later on we'll get into sports and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
number one, you were not born Austin White.
I was not. I was not.
So,
Austin is my middle name.
yeah.
One of them. My first name is a family name, William.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it wasn't supposed to be. My grandfather pitched a fit about them not including it, and he ended up getting his way, per usual.
Yeah.
So that's how I got at it. Now I only heard William if I'm in trouble. Was
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
If I heard
yeah.
William, I knew something was up.
Oh, something's going on. Something's going on.
Yeah.
So it's you said one of your middle names. So is it
Yep.
William Austin?
Yep.
What?
Blaine. Blaine. It was my other grandfather's name. Actually, yeah, great grandfather. Yep.
Okay, okay. So cool, cool. So but you go by Austin. Um
Yep.
and funny, I know it's a funny story because I saw the name, pop up on something that you were doing, and I was like, hold on, William. It's like who, I was like, William in the world? It's like Austin. Yeah, so but nah, that's cool. That's good. So you were your granddad. So did that skip a generation? You said your granddad was William.
No, my dad's still William. Um, but they didn't want to make me a third, I guess.
Mhm.
So it was gonna go a whole different route. But they was at a family dinner, I guess, when they told him the name, and my grandfather decided that that wasn't gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah. You gonna keep this going.
Yeah.
Gonna
Yep.
keep
So I
so
didn't
what
I
about
didn't get I didn't get the third. I didn't get the whole name, but he
yeah,
got something. So
that's something. Yeah. So
yeah,
what about you? So if you have a boy, then
he's
what?
gonna be a junior.
Okay, so it's gonna be
Yep.
same everything.
Everything's yep.
He's getting all of
Yep.
it.
Getting all of it. Yep.
And that's a so of course my son, he's a junior, and
Hmm.
my wife fought tooth and nails to not, she didn't want it because she said the last thing I want is people calling him junior.
Hmm.
And so, but this was something that me and her talked about before we even got married. So it was like, listen, this is something that I always wanted to do. Like, so this is what we need to do. But it's the same way with me. The way my name is spelled, it looks like Cedric. It's honestly, if you pronounce it the correct way, it probably will say Cedric or Cedric or something like that. And
Hmm.
but it's supposed to be pronounced Cedric. I'm the same way when I got in trouble, or even if I'm in trouble now, my wife, like, it's Cedric. And I'm like, oh Lord, what I do, what I do. So, but anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about you. Tell me
Yep.
about your upbringing. Like, where did you grow up? And just tell me a little bit about how you came up.
Yep. Um, pretty much born and raised around the Salisbury, Maryland area. Um, Neither of my parents grew up witnesses. They both got baptized when I was 5. Um, so I had a couple early holiday celebrations. I don't really, remember them. I see pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so them, my 2 younger sisters, uh, we all grew up here. I, when I was a baby, we moved like 15 minutes away, 20 minutes away, but I pretty much consider I've always been in Salisbury. Um, my dad was a landscaper. Actually, both my parents were landscapers. They worked doing that as a
Yep.
business, which got me involved for a short time after I graduated high school. Did that for 17 full time to 23, so 7 years. I guess I did that for right out of school. Um, but yeah, grew up, you know, regular life as much as possible. I guess
Yeah.
for what it could be considered regular.
Yeah. So when you mentioned that, your folks got baptized, you was about 5 years old.
Hmm.
So like you don't have too much recollection of, like, I guess the early.
Not really, just pictures. I remember the adjustment period to like the holiday stuff after my parents got baptized,
Mhm.
more so than even the celebration from before. Um, so I think they started studying when I was 3. That sounds right. Um, so I think holidays were cut off pretty quick on
Mhm.
their end, but I know especially my aunt, she would always like the 26th or the 27th, like the day after, 2 days after, she would always try to give us something.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I kind of remember that growing up of uh them fighting it more than anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember my mom got baptized. I think I was about 8. So I have a little bit more of a recollection of like those early days.
Hmm.
But I think I've said on another episode that it wasn't much. We were poor, so like
Yeah.
it wasn't much to kind of gripe about. Man, I remember like the cake I got was like one of those little bakery cakes from Walmart, and
Hmm.
like maybe a toy car, and that was it.
That was
That
it.
was it. It was nothing extravagant. So like I never felt like I was missing anything. What about you? Like in school, did you ever feel like you were missing anything? during those times?
Not 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 really. It was kind of cool. Like early on, uh, my one of my teachers was a witness. When I was in like kindergarten or first grade or something like that. So even during that like first adjustment period of my parents getting baptized, um, she was my teacher. So she knew. So I didn't have like an issue with the flag or
Yeah.
celebrations, nothing like that early on. And then once kids knew, I mean, they just kind of knew. Like it really wasn't an issue going forward. Around here, everybody stays together from primary to intermediate school and pretty much the middle school. So who
Mm,
you're with is who you're with. There ain't much of an adjustment period. Um, so once it was established, it was kind of established. So it
mm-hmm.
really wasn't too difficult, at least for me.
Yeah. So as you were coming up, like, were you always taller than
Nope,
or when?
not till middle school.
Mm-hmm.
I was the same height as everybody until the summer of going into sixth grade, and I showed up, and I was probably about 3 to 4 inches taller than everybody else, and then it just kind of continued.
Yeah. And so is somebody else, like, is your dad, your mom?
So everybody on my dad's side is pretty tall. My great grandfather was 6'8", 350. So he was a big dude, and this was my family gaps are pretty large. Like my grandfather wasn't born until his dad was 60.
No.
He was 50 or 55 when he had my dad.
Oh,
So there's a huge line gap or
yeah.
time gap between our our generations.
Generations. Yeah.
So you're going over 150 years ago from my great grandfather. The average man was quite small at
Right.
that time. So
Yeah.
he's probably a foot taller, 150 pounds bigger than everybody else.
Mm.
Um,
Nephilim.
yeah, yeah. Yep. So, but I mean, growing up, going into high school, a lot of the football coach, like, I'm sure this will probably get talked about later, but I'm big, but I'm not super athletically gifted. I'm not fat. I'm a big, slow white guy. Like
Yeah.
that's just what I am.
Yeah.
You know, but size, you can play sports with size. So I was in
Oh
middle
yeah, for
school.
sure.
All the football coaches were trying to get me to play JV football before I was even in high school, so I could go right to varsity my freshman year, and
Yeah.
it not be an issue. Um, so I think that was more the biggest challenge than anything else outside of holidays or anything like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And that's you took it right because literally that's where I was gonna go next with like the pressure of like, when you have that type of like height,
Yeah,
immediately like they latch on immediately, like, hey, do you play sports? Like, what do you play? You play
yeah.
football? Do you play basketball? Do you play what do you play? Let's get you into some things. Because I remember I wasn't tall, average height guy. But I remember I think it was the eighth grade. I'm probably like 5'9" at that time. And I literally, I've always been athletic. So I've always been pretty quick, could jump very high. So at that point, I was already grabbing the rim. And, and,
Hmm.
and so I'll go up and jump, and I grab the rim, I hang on it. And then next thing you know, like the coach, like a little bit after practice, was like, hey, do you play basketball? I'm like, yeah, you know. And he was like, huh, you can try for the team. And that's all I needed to hear. Cause of course, deep down, you're like, oh my goodness, like I just love to play. And
Yeah.
so my dad was not a witness. So talked to him, and he was able to persuade and just, hey, he's not gonna miss any meetings, he's not gonna miss
Hmm.
anything, he'll be there. In which it was great. It was middle school, so it was great. So I was able to, pretty much make everything. So, but the pressure of having that is
Yeah.
just like for a lot of the children, when you're coming up, it's great. So I know you
Hmm.
probably faced it. Was it just middle school, or was it all the way through high school where they always
Middle,
like,
they about end of sophomore year into my junior year, they realized I was never gonna play.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's just like, why even bring it up?
Yeah.
Um, I ran, I early on, I lifted with some of the guys who play football. Um, I had been playing basketball. So one guy that went to our high school, he ended up going in my graduating class, ended up going D1, played up in Delaware and then down South Carolina for a few years. I've been running ball with him since sixth grade. So
Mm-hmm.
like we kind of just knew each other on the court. So if I wanted to run because I knew how to run with him, I would have had a roster spot really without having to try. Um, but football was where I would have excelled at. And people see it. It was worse back then, but I, you know, have a pretty good temper. I can get pretty ticked off pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, playing football, it doesn't take much for me to get
Gotta
revved
get
up,
in
ready
there.
to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. In so I was always a smaller guy, so my mom always kept me away from football. Like, period. Like, if my dad would have tried to persuade her to do football, it would have been a solid
yeah,
no. It wouldn't matter
yeah,
what he said. Like, it would have been a no. But like, you do have to I'm assuming you got to get in some type of headspace. I think of
oh yeah,
and I guess we're probably going to get to there in a second. I think of like the guys like Ray Lewis.
hmm
Like, you got to be able to get, you see him before a game and he's just juiced. Like,
yeah,
he's revved up because he knows, like, yeah, I got to lay
yeah,
the wood. I got to
yeah.
lay the wood on somebody.
Even on that, the guy who retired when he became, wanted to become a witness.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
said
yeah,
like that mentality he just couldn't get anymore. Like the violent aspect of it, that just wasn't
yep,
in him. As
yep.
a freshman in high school, that was definitely a part of me. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The older you get, you grow out of that type of stuff. So what are
yeah,
some of the what are some hobbies that you were into, like, so outside of sports, and what do you like even now?
that that's really all it was. If it wasn't playing sports, it was watching.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, I got into gaming when I was real young. Um, it's actually part of where my competitiveness comes from. Is I used to play like NFL Street against my dad, who was a huge trash talker.
yeah,
So as a kid, he would beat me. I'm 7, 8 years old, and he was talking trash to me. And that's kind of,
yeah.
something that stuck with me. But yeah, sports, gaming, music. A I used to be a okay, decent drummer. I haven't played in a while,
Oh,
at a
okay.
steady basis, but
Yeah.
still something I like. Um,
Didn't know that. Man, I'll tell
yeah,
you what, it's
but
like everybody I can add on here that has some musical talents. That's some
yeah,
type of musical talents.
yeah. So I have a small electric set here, but just time hard to find time to
Yeah.
use it. But
Yeah.
I for me it was when I couldn't play sports, I became a sports nerd. Not like kind of the number side of it,
Yeah.
things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
um, that's really all what it's been: sports, some gaming, and some music.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we're gonna jump back. We're gonna come back to sports.
Okay.
Let's jump to Miss Jasmine. Yes,
Yep.
Jasmine.
Jasmine.
Jasmine. I knew it was
Yep.
something.
There you go. Yeah,
Jasmine.
yeah, yeah. There you go. There you go.
So like, I guess, how did you guys meet, and when did
Mhm.
you know, like, this is the one?
So we were in neighboring circuits, um, and we had mutual acquaintances for a while. But we had never really hung out or interacted whenever. Um, I actually, my story is not too different than Chris's actually. So I went to a regional, and I didn't know she was going to be there. I ended up sitting in her section, and I'm like, hey, I recognize this person. Went up, talked to her,
Yeah.
and I was having a bonfire, the next month out on the beach. So I invited her to come through. She came through, but at the time, uh, I thought another friend of mine was interested,
Okay.
and so they talked some that night. Me and her spent a good while talking too, but I was like, I'm gonna let him have the first if he so chooses.
Yeah.
Uh, I gave him a couple months. Hey, you hit her up? No, nothing. So I was like, all right. So I messaged her. We started talking. That would have been November. See, bonfire, August, September, October 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I knew rather quickly. Uh, we hit it off right away. Talked, constantly. Um, we knew pretty quick that there was definitely, you know, uh, something there between us.
Yeah.
Um, it was a quick engagement, 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
I proposed in March of 2019,
Yeah.
and we ended up getting married in October of 2019.
Yeah. I mean, that's all you need. Mine was pretty
Yeah,
quick too. I proposed in April and we were married by September.
yeah.
So like, I mean, literally, it don't take that long to plan a wedding.
No, no. So it took a little more convincing on her end of speeding it up a little bit, just because she wanted to make sure. I mean, you want to make sure it's the lifelong commitment that you're signing up for. So it's not
Right.
something to take lightly.
No.
But
No.
a few, I would say like proposed in March, probably a couple months before that, 4 or 5 months in, I was like, yeah, for sure, this is
Yeah.
this is the woman that I want to be with.
That's great, man. That's great. So, of course, when you guys came down and we talked and we was in the kitchen, I remember it, and I think she shared the story that you're talking about, like how y'all met and
Hmm.
things of that nature. And it was very similar to me and Gab's story too. Like Chris has shared his story.
Hmm.
And at some point I'll get in the hot seat too. And share, similar stories or whatnot,
Hmm.
but very similar story. So you guys met 29 or a little bit before, probably before 2019,
2018.
2018. You
Yep.
guys met, but you guys were already even before that in neighboring, circuits. So you guys probably had stumbled across each other at some point or
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the
yeah.
same school.
We both knew each other. I mean, complete honesty, I didn't have the best reputation with her when I first started talking to her. I had to win her over a little bit. You know, she had to see me for who I was, not what she was told what I was.
Yes, sir.
Um,
Yep, yep,
so
yep.
it definitely took a good amount of effort on my part to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Good,
yeah.
good. So what now
Hmm.
you guys, have a baby now. You have your
Yep.
daughter. Tell everybody what's her name?
Alani.
Alani.
Yep.
What's the middle name?
Alani Mary White.
Alani Mary. So where's the Mary come from? I know it's
Mary is my grandmother's name.
okay, grandmother's
She
name.
was probably she was who I was, family wise. I wasn't close with much of my family. After you know we got after my parents got baptized, but I was always close with my grandma, and
Mm-hmm.
we ended up taking care of her for a while before she passed, and just she was always just super close and special to me. So
Yeah,
it's a little
I had to show some love there. I
some
love
love, yeah.
it. I love it.
Yeah.
So like, how has fatherhood been? Like, for the one, how old is she now? And then like, how has that experience been for you?
Let's see. She is so when I said months before I got in trouble, so let me go ahead and do weeks real quick. I said 2 months and I got in trouble. So
Oh my
one, two,
goodness,
three,
man.
four.
Listen, bro. We're as guys, we're more simple minded. I'd be the same way. Like
Yeah.
somebody,
So
oh
if
yeah,
my
she
math
worked
is correct, 9 weeks.
9 weeks. Okay, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, you'll have some people that'll be like, oh yeah, she's 26 weeks. 26? What you mean 2 years old?
Yeah.
I mean, what we doing? Come on now.
Yeah.
All these weeks.
Yeah.
All these weeks.
So somebody asked me and I was like, she's 2 months. And I was corrected rather quickly that she was 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
like, all right, let me not get in trouble here.
Stick with the weeks. Stick with the weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah. So how has that like been transitioning out, like the sleep cycles, the bathing, the
Yeah.
changing
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
diaper, all these things. How's that for you?
It's been solid. I didn't get much time off work. Um, so I took a two what 10 days off maybe from when she went into labor to when we got home.
Yeah.
Before I went back to work.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm still working now. Um, So a lot of it when I'm here, I try to help as much as I can. A lot of the overnight stuff is Jasmine.
Yeah.
Um, so people always ask about sleep. For me, it's mostly fine. I'm a very heavy sleeper.
Yeah.
It takes a very loud cry from her for me
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
wake up. But Jasmine, because she knows how to get up, she
Yes.
handles it overnight, and
Yeah.
I appreciate that since I got some early mornings sometimes.
For sure, for sure. Like, I my first child, CJ, I only had same thing. I only had like I don't even think it's I had a week of maternity and then I had to
Mm,
like use vacation for my second week. So I think I did end up getting 2 weeks. And same thing, it was like, the time I was off, I was there, I was there little bit more
hmm
intensive. By the time I got back to work though, it was like, all right, like I got to sleep, I got to
Yeah.
sleep. A lot of times, like I'm a super hard sleeper unless like you said, if it's super loud. Like I remember hearing one night, my daughter, she was a little bit older. She probably was like maybe 3 years old. She fell out the bed, and I heard
hmm
that thump, and then I just heard her just cry. And now then I woke up, but usually if it's just like just a normal, I need my diaper change cry. If I'm asleep, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm the same. I'm the same way.
oh.
So
So
normally
like,
I'll ask when I get later that day when I know she's up and going. I'll just ask her like, hey, what time did y'all get to bed last night? That kind of gives me a read on how the day is gonna go. Sometimes she gets
yeah,
decent sleep. Other time, I think the other night she woke up at like 1 and was up to like 5:30,
yeah,
and
yeah.
Jasmine was up with her the whole time. So like, I know that day is gonna be a little more rough going
Hmm.
forward.
So a lot of
So
people use the term now girl dad. That's
mhm.
like a big thing now, the girl dad. So how has that like affected the way that you even move, like whether it's at work or just throughout life? Like how has that affected the way you kind of approach things now?
Yeah, even a little before, I'll say probably close to when I got engaged, I definitely became a little more cautious with things. Just daily stuff, the way I drive,
Yeah.
uh, just different how I act with people.
Hmm.
Before I was responsible for wife and now a kid. I didn't care what the situation was I got into. I only had to worry about me.
Yeah.
Now I got
Yeah.
other people to worry about.
Yeah.
You know, as far as girl dad, um, I don't know if it's right now. Because there's not the interaction is kind of
Oh yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean.
emotion. It's just kind of there's not much going on. You hold her.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
talk to like I try to I talk to her. I say stuff to her.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's gonna
I
come.
kind of think it'd be kind of similar to if it was a baby boy, like with
Yeah.
what I'm doing now. When she gets older and she can talk to me and bat her eyes and things like
Yeah.
that,
It's
that's
gonna
when it's
come.
going to be,
It's gonna come.
the
It's
real
gonna
test
come.
of stuff. Or like, man,
Yeah. 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 Cause like the difference between I know, like my son and it was night and day because with him, it was just like, just proud dad, like
hmm
my boy, my son,
yeah, yeah,
I could be fall, get up, like all these
yeah,
different
yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah.
But like my daughter, it was like she fall. Oh my goodness, come here. You know,
You okay?
it's
Yeah.
like it's completely night and day, especially like when as you mentioned, like when she starts to be able to like smile at you and like
hmm
laugh at you, it melts you. It because like then you get that you're getting something back or the record,
Right.
the looking at you and recognizing you and knowing that you're dad and all this stuff, grabbing your beard because all that stuff is
She
gonna happen.
she's already got a few good yanks
Hugs.
in between my beard hair and my chest hair. She's
Yeah,
inflicted a little bit of pain already.
yeah. I
Yeah.
sure, I'm sure, I'm sure of it. So let's switch gears real quick. Let's get back to the sport. Um, so you're a big Baltimore Raven fan.
Yes.
Literally your gamer tag is Ravens fan. You
Yep.
let everybody know,
Yeah.
like
Yep.
this is it. So like
Yeah.
when did you like what was it about Baltimore Ravens? Because like when did you get into like the actual Ravens?
I've always been into football. Um, Once again, my grandmother was actually a huge football fan. I mean, watch football every Sunday, never missed a game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so my family from originally comes from. My dad was born in Baltimore City. Um, my family comes. A lot of my family is outside Baltimore, Baltimore County. So a lot of my, ties are over there.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just what I got into early. I don't have like a man. This is what made me become my team or anything like that. It's just from a kid. It's just what I was invested in that team, and it just kind of continued on,
Yeah.
continued on that way.
So it's just a heritage, basically. You
Yeah, yeah,
inherited
yeah.
almost
I
like
mean, for
Baltimore
a
Ravens.
minute, like when Baltimore, left the city and went to Indy, um, that gap in between is kind of when my dad was there. So he didn't really have that kind of football team growing up.
Mm-hmm.
But then when they came back, I mean, they came back, I think 96. I was born in 96.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, kind of back, established around the same time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so,
So
and as
like,
soon as they came back, it's just what it was.
yeah, yeah. And they had a few great runs too with guy I
Hmm.
mentioned earlier, Ray Lewis.
Yeah.
So like what was your first time? Like, do you remember the first time you saw this guy? Or like and what that was like?
I
Because
remember, um, I've gone back and definitely watched highlights of him playing. I think the first play that comes to mind is I think it was the wild card playoff game against the Chargers, where he shot up the gap and just stuffed. It was either LT or Darren Sproles for like a 5 yard loss on like 4th and 2, and it is what sealed the game.
yeah.
And so like that's probably like the first iconic play that I think of when I do think of Ray Lewis. Um, and then you got his team. In my opinion, the best safety of all time, Ed Reed.
Yeah. Oh,
Back
man.
there,
Ooh.
controlling the back. I mean, I
Yeah.
just off the top of the head, it's really hard to name a better defensive duo than those two.
Mm.
Um, you had underrated guys like Chris McAllister at corner, Peter Bolware, another great linebacker, special teams guy. So those 2000 era's defense was just
Another level.
special.
Another level. Another level. Yeah, I think the Seattle Legion of Boom, that was they
Yeah.
were tough too. They were tough too.
Yo, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, them, everybody
Denver,
always said Legion of Boom,
Denver
85
Broncos.
Bears,
Oh
Denver
yeah.
Bronco,
Yeah.
with the Denver with the Von Miller and the Marcus Ware duo on the
That was
edge there
crazy.
for that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But I mean, you get the only difference is, and I can't speak for the 85 Bears, but Legion of Boom, they had Russell Wilson on the other side. They had a top tier quarterback. That
Mhm.
2000s Ravens defense had Trent Dilfer. Like they
Yeah.
had a below average quarterback that they had to make up for.
Yeah, to carry him. They had to carry him.
As long as he scored 10 points,
That's all
then
you
we
need.
were going to win. It was fine.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I mean,
yeah.
granted, yeah, we ended up getting Jamal Lewis to, get that run game going,
Yeah.
even heavier. But
Mhm.
yeah, to me, that whole stretch, late 90s to early to mid 2000s Ravens defense is just
Next level.
different level. Yeah.
Next level. So from your sake, because I know nowadays, everybody's just so big on offense. So like, but from a football standpoint, like, would you rather see that a low scoring 10-9 game, or would you rather
I,
like see
I
the
like to see a good chess match between quarterback and defense. Um, if the game I kind of like, low 20s to early teens, because I mean the offense with today's rules, if you hold a team to 9 points, it's almost impossible to do.
yeah,
Um, so if I can see a game, two good defenses battling out, 21-17, 21-18, somewhere in there, for
yeah,
me, I don't need, what was it, the Rams Chiefs game a few years back, like 50 to
yeah,
47, or like
way
I
too
don't.
much.
To me,
Yeah.
I don't need that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm with you. I like having a good mixture. I think you said it on hit it on the head. Like somewhere like 21-18. That's a
Hmm.
very, very solid. Maybe the first half you get a nice little, 10-7 type deal, and then
Yeah.
after that, it kind of maybe break loose once they kind of figure some stuff out. Because like you said, it really football really is just it's a big chess match for sure. You gotta find your matchup. So same thing with basketball. It's similar to that, at least the way that you kind of navigate it for sure. But like Washington Wizards, you're
It's a sad time.
yeah, it's
It's
a
a
bad time. But
sad time.
yeah, but I'm not gonna talk about let's talk about some good times, because at
Okay.
one point I was rocking with the Wizards too. So number one, I want to start here. I want to start with like number one, what drew you into the Wizards?
So, I was a, huge, even as a small kid, I'll have a story to go with this. I was a huge Jordan fan. Um,
Okay.
I was born right in the middle of '96, middle of that dynastic run,
Yes.
Chicago.
Yeah.
My dad, huge basketball guy, always was. So, you know, I got brought up just watching, even as an infant, just put me in front of the screen, look at MJ. When I was a kid, I wanted to shave my head. I actually, before Bible reading one night, I took clippers to my head
Oh my God.
because I wanted to go bald and my parents wouldn't let me.
Yeah.
And I started to cut all my hair off with clippers,
Yeah.
because that's what Jordan was. So when he went to Washington for them couple years, I had a Wizards Jordan jersey,
Yep.
and since then I kind of stuck with him. I wish it would have been a different team he would have gone with. I wouldn't be in the
Not
dismay
with the
of
Wizards. Yeah.
where where I am now. But
Yeah.
once he went there, I kind of stuck with him and followed through.
Yeah. Yeah. That's solid because I'm a favorite player type of guy. My player
Hmm.
go deuces, see ya. But I mean that's a great story because like I didn't know you were as big of a Jordan fan of the a
Yeah,
big fan of the GOAT, says the GOAT
yeah.
himself.
I mean,
Uh,
I do have Jordan as the goat of NBA basketball.
yeah,
A lot of people my age and younger have Braun,
yeah,
but I am still Team Jordan
yeah.
for that one.
So I'll match a story with you. So with 96. So well mine would be more 98.
Hmm.
So I started watching maybe just the finals. My first couple of years of remembering watching NBA basketball was always the finals. So I
Hmm.
never really watched throughout the season, probably until like 2001, 2002. But I always just watched the finals. And I remember my stepdad and one of my cousins, they were arguing because my stepdad, he's older, so he loved, the Utah Jazz,
Hmm.
the structured basketball, the pick and roll, and Karl Malone was just, John Stockton was off the chain. Like you just watching stuff about him defense wise, and he just great player. And then of course Karl Malone tagged with him. But of course, every youth where my Jordans at, my J's,
Yeah.
like black and red. And they were just arguing back and forth. And I remember they were literally like it was a heated debate in each other's face. And my cousin like 15, 16 years old at the time. So of course, any 15, 16-year-old at that time loves Jordan.
Hmm.
And long story short, of course, Jordan ended up winning. And like I just when I was watching though, I just knew it was like something special about this guy. So he just stood out more than everybody else. I said something about this bald-headed guy. Like it's absolutely amazing. So I guess in your case, one of the first things you drew to was the same thing, was Michael. But after Michael
Hmm.
left, like who filled those shoes for you? Who was the person that you looked at
Yeah.
like, oh man,
Um, it was it was definitely Agent Zero there for a minute. Gilbert Arenas.
Gilbert?
Um, Gilbert Arenas, and I mean that trio of which Gilbert, Karan Butler, and Antoine Jameson. Antoine is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated players to be in the NBA.
Yeah,
You you know I think he could have he had a special talent to me. Never wasn't going to be the number one on the team,
no,
but you know, uh, for what he was always like the guy on the team that outside of Gilbert, I was like, I want him to stay. I
yeah,
want him to be a Wizard.
yeah.
Um, moving on after that, moved into the John Wall era.
Mhm. Well, before
The
you go there, let me pause you.
Okay.
what happened? Because I was a Gilbert Arenas guy as well. I love Karan Butler, Antoine
Mhm.
Jameson. And Antoine Jameson, like you said, very underrated in his game. I think mainly because of the way his game was. Like he
Mhm.
had the little floater, he had a quick shot.
Yep.
Everything was a floater around the rim. Seemed like even his mid range was almost like a floater. Like he had a very soft touch. But why could they get over the hump though? Like they were in the East. Yes, you got LeBron there. You got, of course, some things there. But that
Uh,
team was like
yeah.
constructed pretty good. I
I
think they
mean,
had Eric Dampier. Um, Andre Blatch at one point. Like that team was really good.
yeah. Yeah. You said you had LeBron. You had the big three at the time. Wait, or in Boston. I guess that was later. What, 2008?
2008. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right around,
So
right.
they ended up forming. You still had to deal with Detroit. Um, with the monster of a team they had. Imagine if they would have drafted Melo in that class. What could have been? I know that's your guy right there, but I think they they could they should have got over the hump. Um, you know, in Gilbert's mind, if you listen to him, he thinks he's a Hall of Famer. He didn't produce like when it came to the postseason, but it's
Yeah.
kind of always been. I mean, that carried on to John Wall once again. John Wall, Bradley Beal. They had opportunities to make
Yep.
with them two. Gortat, that PNR between John Wall and Gortat, especially when Wall was feeling it, hit his mid ranges.
Yep.
That was one of the most unstoppable pick and
Very,
rolls they had. That was in the NBA.
very, very.
But you had LeBron going down to Miami and a
Yeah.
couple other things, and or it
Yeah. So
wasn't didn't happen.
so going to John Wall. So John
Hmm.
Wall was my favorite point guard for the longest time. Like still think that he should be on somebody's team. Just me personally.
Hmm.
Um, but came out of Kentucky, uh,
Hmm.
and was a star there. Got drafted, of course. Point guard, star there. Got Bradley Beal not too long after that. Um, Otto Porter that was eventually turned into Paul Pierce. Hey, bro, I'm with you. I'm with you with the head shake. But I don't know why they paid that guy, but anyway, then they got but when they got Paul Pierce, because I was a Paul Pierce guy too,
Hmm.
I was like, this is the piece. And I know you felt it too. And John Wall I don't know if it was game 5 or game 6 in Atlanta. Remember when he broke his hand? If John Wall does not fracture his hand, what do you think happens with that team? Like, what do you feel the ceiling was?
Trying to remember what year that was.
It was either it was the year that Atlanta was. I want to say they were like they had the 65 game win. I think maybe. They were one of the
So
best teams in the league.
Wall was drafted 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Beal would have been what? Was hurt? Was he the year? No, it was the year after. Was he 11? Was he 12?
I feel like it was 11. I feel like it
11.
was the year after, but I could be wrong. It was the year after or maybe 2 years after, but I feel like it was the year after. But this was when they had Paul Pierce.
Paul Pierce.
And of course Paul Pierce was hitting all these clutch shots. I don't know if you remember
Yeah,
uh
I
the
remember he called game on that bank shot that went in.
oh yeah,
I
yeah,
think that was that Hawk series.
yeah.
Um,
He said, I call game. Did
yeah.
you call the bank?
Um,
Did you call the bank, Paul? I call game. That's what I call. And of course, he was always like, "This is why I'm here. This is."
yeah. So that was 2014 that he was with us. Let's see.
And I think was this the first year of LeBron back in Cleveland, or was this Miami? That part I don't remember.
20,
They never got.
2014. That would have been. I'm trying to remember when Kyrie came in the league. If it was 14 or 15, or was it 13?
Came in at 11.
Kyrie came in at 11. So I
Yeah,
think Kyrie was there 2 years because you had the Anthony Bennett draft class.
yep. Oof.
and you had the Andrew Wiggins draft class where they traded Wiggins um to get Kevin Love once LeBron came back to
Yep. Here we go. So he broke his hand in 2015. So this was
2015.
yeah. So he broke his hand, the left wrist, in 2015, and this was during the playoffs. And I remember because I was, he was going down the lane, of course, going, super athletic, and
Yeah,
fell, broke, or does it say fractured his left hand, and immediately the series just turned on his head.
yeah,
Because of course, I mean, John Wall was the engine,
yeah,
so
yeah. I mean, Bradley Beal's still a pup. I
at
mean,
that time, yes,
at
at
that
that time,
time.
yeah,
And really, I mean, outside when you with that 2014 roster, outside of those two, I mean, you had your Paul Pierce, but he was what 3-4 years away from retiring at that
yeah,
point. So I mean,
yeah,
still a clutch bucket getter could still get you a bucket, but a shell of
what he was,
yeah, this isn't Celtics,
yeah,
Paul Pierce that's coming out there.
mhm,
Gortat, he's dependent on John Wall with that
yeah,
PNR. Um,
and the bench
Otto
wasn't
Porter,
that deep either.
Otto Porter, who's our was it Andre Miller? Was our backup point guard?
Well, Andre Miller, I remember that
Um,
guy.
then we just had some guy like uh Chris Humphreys, I think was on the team at that time.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
really no other star to go along with John Wall at that time to pick up the torch once he gets hurt.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but that's just how the NBA is such a star-driven a team. A star
yeah.
drives the team. If they go down, like right now, LeBron goes down. Even with AD, LeBron goes down.
It's over.
Lakers, they're done.
It's over with.
Jokic, probably even better example. Jokic goes down in Denver.
Oh yeah,
They're not making a run.
they're not even making the
Um,
playoffs.
yeah. So it's just sadly, for those years, it just always fell short.
Yeah,
Boston ended up getting thanks to the Nets with that. I think it was the Nets with that Paul Pierce trade, getting
yeah,
Tatum and Jalen Brown and guys
yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Ended up Isaiah Thomas with
yeah.
his run there with Boston knocking
Yep.
Washington out of the playoffs.
50-point game. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that was a
So
tremendous series too. So yeah, there was always somebody
somebody there.
in
There
the
was that
way.
one, that
Yeah.
one, that one team. And I forgot with the 2000s runs. So he brought. I don't know how I forgot about bringing up the Hawks in the 2000s with Joe Johnson and
Oh yeah.
Al Horford and
Yeah.
they're always the mediocre team that could never get over the hump. They always like floated, but they were always a tough team in that 2000s runs too.
Exactly. So let's shift gears. Let's get to 2K. Let's get to NBA.
Virtual basketball.
Yeah, virtual basketball. So for the people who don't know, this is actually how me and Austin met, was
Yep.
through playing 2K. And so with that, we met, I mean, a lot of different brothers, a lot of different brothers. So it's actually been a really, really great experience to be able to meet brothers through our faith. And so we've had a great time. Yes, got you know, your people who get in the chats and they cut up so to speak. But for the most part, we have a really, really great time. So like with the 2K league that we have, like when you got invited, was this what you expected, or is it more than what you expected?
It's definitely more than what I expected. Um, just in general, like I had only been playing 2K with uh that game mode of 2 wreck, crime, things like that. I had just started when I joined Run with y'all. I was always a franchise or a connected franchise player,
Yeah,
uh, or my league playing online stuff like that. So just the game mode itself was an adjustment. I didn't know really uh, what was all to it when it came to even making characters and stuff like that. And then,
hmm,
yeah, the talent of the players I was playing with and against, and uh, the which was good for me. Some of the competitive juices, I didn't know it was going to be,
Hmm.
kind of high end. Um, so yeah, it was definitely more than what I thought it was going to be when I first started.
Yeah, yeah. And so like, and when you first came in, um, you were, drafted to run the point. So I remember you were hitting very well. I put it that way.
Yeah.
Um,
So I had actually never played point on 2K before.
uh-huh.
Um, when I well, in that way, when I first started running, uh, I first got introduced with BG and them. I made a 3 point spot up, and that's what I did. I made a small forward, like a 6, 7. No idea what I was doing, what I was making. They were
Yeah,
just like, we need somebody that can shoot.
yeah,
So I made a build like a small forward. I sat in the corner. Couldn't really dunk, couldn't pass, really no. I had some defense, but it's mostly just shooting. Um, we would play the All Star team up mode,
yeah. Loved it.
and on
Loved
that
it.
mode,
Yeah.
that's where I was running point. And I think BG ended up seeing like, hey, he's a decent point guard. So when we got into the league, that's what he wanted me to run. And in that kind of setting, I didn't know what I was doing. I made a build I liked, uh, and I tried to run the offense the best I could. I learned the differences in NBA basketball and 2K basketball. Obviously, there's a few differences there
Yeah.
that I tried to see. I think I was a little pass first, two pass first when I first joined. Um, Now I'm probably not pass first enough, but
Oh, it's that people are gonna always,
but
yeah, yeah. Can't
but
be
yeah,
perfect.
no, like I said, I BG, even though I joke, I was like, man, I was a third round pick, which I think I was, when we first joined the league. I think it went with George,
Yeah, 'cause I
Phil,
think he picked George first because everybody
and
knew.
then Phil.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we played with George, so we already people knew George. So yeah.
yep. And then I think it was me in the third round. He really didn't know what to expect. It was still gonna be like a flyer to see if I could even do it.
Mhm.
Um, and I think me and George, as far as top of the zone defense goes, that first season, I don't know if we've ever had a better zone defense between me and G,
Mhm.
um, especially with those passing lane steals that I became synonymous with
Yeah,
when I
yeah,
first joined.
for sure. Don't pass on his
But
side.
yeah,
Don't pass. Do not do an outlet pass. Yeah. So
yeah,
I'm gonna tell this story. So we end up facing you guys first round of the
yep,
playoffs, and literally like one of the first things we talked about was this is going to be a slow pace game.
mm-hmm,
Like we're not going to get on the fast break, because we had Kyle at big, so of course Kyle could easily throw those league out passes. We're not throwing
yep,
the fast break, and plus we got Robbie too, so he wants to get out on the break.
yep,
We're going to play half court offense because like we're not going to let him get 6 to 7 steals because every time you throw it, it didn't even have to be on your side. Like you were like Ed Reed. Like if we threw it anywhere in the vicinity, this was probably what 2K22 maybe. No, was it 20? Yeah, maybe 2K22 at this time maybe.
20, yeah, yeah, it was
Yeah.
22.
Yeah. So it was like, yeah, don't throw anywhere near. So like from I'm gonna say this, like I feel like you have one of the higher you're in the upper echelon of IQ when it comes to the game of 2K. So where like especially with me talking to you now, like not really doing it that much before you started, like where did that like
I
how did
think it
you
just
see the
always,
floor
I think
like
it just always came with just watching. Like I said, when if I wasn't playing sports, I was watching. Um, Even on like the coaching aspect of it. You know, Different rotations, different defenses, kind of trying to, which I still do now, trying to get a read on tendencies of certain
that?
players. Like, I do know, going against a guy like Kyle, he wants to go on the fast break. Certain point guards I know want to take off out of as soon as the shot goes up, they're gone. Um, so I think it was just kind of watching and seeing what other people were doing and kind of tweaking my defensive mindset towards them, just to
Mhm.
try to take out their strong suits. If I'm gonna lose, I'm gonna stop you from doing what you're doing best, or stop your best players from trying to go off. It's gonna be somebody else that
Yeah.
takes me out.
Yeah, yeah. So like, and even you talking like this, so these are type of things I love. Like I'm a a nerd when it comes to, like, you said it earlier, like I'm a nerd when it comes to basketball. And like so many people think, yes, 2K in real life basketball, they're different, completely
Mhm.
different. But there's a lot of, the worst player that you can play with is in 2K. Like, forget this, to me, like you could have a very good skill set, but then like a low IQ, and so you do
Mhm.
things at the wrong time. And then, or you could have a very high IQ, but then your skill is not that great. But we can work on the skill. The
Right.
IQ we can't. The
Yeah.
IQ
Yeah.
is
Yeah. Yeah.
hard to work on. So, like for you, what do you think is more important when playing 2K? Do you think it's IQ or do you think it's skill? From a I would say, I guess, a foundation. You need both,
From
but
you need both as a foundation. I think if you have, like you say, if you have IQ, your skills can get better, or because of your IQ, you can excel in your strong points and hide your weaknesses.
mm,
Um, like uh, you know, if you're not the best shooter, but you know when to shoot, where to shoot from, we can help you get a build that's going to help you shoot better, or find a
yeah,
jumper that you
yeah,
can basically work with to help you shoot better. Um, and I, it's somebody that people slept on a lot, but even like for us this year, Darius real life basketball IQ was super high.
yeah,
He's somebody I play with and against a few times now. Um, and I know he has skill. I've played against him in online modes where he's won the chip in like connected franchise modes, or whatever. So he has 2K skill, but translating that into the 5v5 scene was a little bit different. But
yeah,
because the IQ, we could work with him, got him a jumper to help him that he was comfortable with, got
yeah,
him a build he was comfortable with. And I mean, for our team this season, he was a important part to, especially in that first playoff series. I mean, he was my number one option
yeah.
um, as far as scoring. So
Mm-hmm.
after me,
Yeah.
but he was who I was looking for.
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of your teams that you played on so many variety of teams
Mm-hmm.
so far. You play on teams where you were the point, you play on teams where you were the guy that stood in the corner, played some defense.
Yep.
So like number one, out of all those teams that you've played on, which one did you have the most fun on? And like which one do you think was the better constructed team?
So the best constructed team, and I hate the best overall talent team was probably uh the team I ran on with Ajante and Sat. Um,
That Charm was a Charm City at the
Charm
time.
City
Yeah,
Lockdown. Um,
yeah,
the most fun and that could definitely give a team run for their money was that second iteration of South Beach.
mm,
Um, I made the build I made that season was probably the most fun build I ever had. I had a glitched 6'10" small forward that I could run point with,
right.
but I
Yeah,
could also guard center.
yeah,
Um, Petty was at his apex. Josh's build is probably the best he's ever made.
yeah.
Uh, Tyler
Tyler.
at his potential, and then Neil had a bad rep. I don't remember CLB. I've only heard stories.
Yeah,
Um, but I kind of took Neil on as you know, a guy that I had ran rec with and things like that. And I was like,
yeah.
I don't know what people are saying. Like I thought he was, solid, and sure enough, he ended up,
Oh yeah.
being a solid
Hey,
pickup
he'll
for
tell
us.
you now. This ain't CLB Neil.
Yeah.
This ain't CLB Neil.
Yep.
South
So
Beach
like I
baby.
said, I wasn't around. Like I said, I've heard stories. I don't, I wasn't, seeing it in action.
Yeah,
But and I think the season after that was a season with, when Robbie was the cat, where he cut Neil and ended up, picking up, was it Ryan or somebody else? I think that, I don't know if it was that season or season after.
no, no. You know what? That was before? Was that before? Because I was on that team. So was that the Mercenaries? I think it was the
I think
Mercenaries.
it was the Merc.
So
Yeah,
that was the
because
year
I think it was
before.
the. Okay.
Yep, it was the year before because year one was CLB, and then year
Okay.
two when we drafted Neil, Neil was still getting there. He was still getting
Yeah.
there. So he let him go and we picked up Ryan. Because Ryan was, I guess, I'm assuming he was a free agent at the time. I can't quite remember it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but the year after that, I think that's when Neil started to, continue to, I guess,
Mhm.
just develop, get better, get better, get better. And now, of course, he's, one of the more solid
Yeah.
players.
I always tell him it's annoying to play against him just because of how he plays
Oh yeah.
defense. Like
Oh man.
I don't know. There's certain players that get steals. I just don't know how him and Yote are like the biggest two. I think I have a clear passing lane, and they
Yeah.
both get steals.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, he sees the floor, and I agree. Yote is the same way. Yote is, probably like you in 2K22 nowadays. Like you cannot throw anywhere near him.
yep,
So all those positions that you play, what position do you prefer? Like if you had your way, I guess what position would you rather? Because a lot of people, of course, the first thing they want you to do is run point. But like,
yeah.
what position do you prefer to play?
Um, it kind of is kind of a political answer. It just depends on the team around me. Um, if I have a point guard or an overall team where I have a point guard I can trust to run the offense, and then a second, guy to kind of help him out, I would rather play lock. I made a build specifically to run lock on and be a corner sitter. Um, for a while, and the averages kind of prove it. For a while, even in the league, I was the leading 3-point shooter. I was at like 70% in league play
Mm-hmm.
when I was running on that lock build. Um, Lock, and then certain players, because I don't make shooting bigs, I can't run center for everybody. It's a select few that can
Yeah.
work with a center like mine.
Yep.
So that's kind of a give and take. But if it's up to me,
And I
if
and
it's
I
not if it's not point, then it's probably lock right now.
Okay. And in fact, and I love when you actually play big because I tell people all the time, you don't necessarily have to make a big that can shoot. But you're right, you have to play with the right point guard. Like
Yeah.
you have to play with a guy like an Ajante. I watched you guys last night, and Ajante with that screen. I mean, it's
Hmm.
tough. It's tough. I mean, and you think about most of the two, especially the 2K leagues of old. Maybe not a lot of bigs now can usually shoot now, but back in 2K21, 2K22, man, it was always that pick and roll, and it brought the, I
Yep.
don't care if it was a zone or if it was man, it always had to bring the big up, which then created cuts, created pick and roll. I mean, it just creates a havoc for the team to defend. So you're like one of the more decorated players in our league in a very and you didn't even have the chance to play season one and season two.
Hmm.
You were you rookie of the year or
Yeah.
so what are what so I I'm pretty sure you probably we had a bunch of seasons by now. What are
Hmm.
some things you racked up like the decorations? Like tell me some of your things.
So rookie of the year. Um, I'm not sure the number of all stars, but multi-time all star, two-time MVP. Got a two or three. Two-time champ. Um, few first team all offensive and defensive teams.
Mm,
Um, and I'm on not an accolade and not enough wins, but I'm on a 7-game streak of getting to the championship, or a 7-season streak of getting to the championship through consecutive 2Ks.
which is crazy. Which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Once again, not
So
enough wins. It's getting there and losing. Run into some really, really good teams at the end. We fall short, but
yeah.
uh, had
And
some
I
had
know
some good
that's
runs.
yeah, because I was as I was thinking of what you've done so far, I was like, man, you're creating a LeBron like resume.
Rather
Where
be Jordan.
yeah, I know
Rather be six.
yeah,
Rather be six
yeah,
and 0,
I know, yeah.
6-0 than 2-5.
So like, but what do you feel what's left for you to do? Like if you were to just say, you know what, man, I'm done with 2K. I'm done with the league, so to speak. But like
I,
what is left
I
for you?
don't think I can ever say I'll be done as long as there's leagues to run. I think I'm too competitive to do that. I don't get tired of the game as it, goes to its end. I spend a good bit of money on the game every year, so it's something
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm getting my money's worth out
Yeah.
of this game. So thankfully this year I've been able to cut back a little bit, but
Yeah.
I think as long as I'm still got a competitiveness to me, I mean that's gonna keep me
It's gonna be
going.
here. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
I don't think people
and,
realize. Go ahead. Go ahead.
and I think a lot of people got two rings now.
Yeah.
Nobody's got three.
Three.
So I guess the goal
Yeah.
is try
It's
to
the
get
race to
three
three,
before.
man. It's the
Yeah,
race to three.
I think Petty was the first to two,
Yes, he was.
and he took a little bit of a break, but then he came back, but wasn't able to. Probably with that roster, should have secured a third chip, but didn't.
For sure. For sure. They should have. Yeah.
But somebody, not possibly me, had to knock him out of the playoffs that
Yeah.
season.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody's going to get it. Somebody's going to
Yeah.
get that third.
So and it might be, I think of some of these guys like you know, who aren't really talked about that might even be the, first, who would be a key contributor. Like, if a Tyler Coleman gets back in the league, a top team is going to want him as a knockdown. He has two rings.
Yeah.
A guy like Lou, every championship team is looking for a guy like Lou. He
Yeah.
has two now.
Yes, too.
I
Yeah.
think, he might be taking just talking to him, I think he might be taking a season or two off. So that might slow it down a little bit. But, when he's back, getting that third.
Yeah.
So, said two time. If I will say this, if Ajante and Sat end up on the same team again, that's probably a third chip for them right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been watching, uh, you know, I I've been watching Sat run on this point guard, and he's figuring it out. A little bit at a time. He struggled at first, but he's getting there. And then Sat or Jante on that lock is something.
Oh man, a
Something
menace.
stupid.
A
Yeah.
menace. A menace.
So I think if they link up, that third chip is going to be here sooner rather than
It's gonna
later
be
for
tough.
them.
It's gonna be tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully people are smart to kind of,
Yeah.
run block a little bit, run block. So speaking of all those names you mentioned, like people get mad when I call you the GOAT. Like, people get mad because they're like, why would you do that? Because you're competing against the guy. Now, keep being honest. Like if we were playing real life sports, you would never hear something like that out of my
Right.
mouth, because then I just would never, but we're
Yeah.
okay here. And like at the end of the day, it's really fun. It's for fun. So like me saying that, does that actually make you the GOAT? No, I'm just one person.
Right.
I'm just saying it because number one, I kind of operate from a media mindset nowadays with the podcast. So like literally, like when I'm talking, a lot of times I'm like either trying to boost up, like literally, because honestly, you are one of the like IQ. I respect your IQ. Me and you, we faced up, and I'm not nowhere near the echelon of a player, on 2K as you are. But like usually when I'm on a team, I'm like the coach. I'm the person behind the scenes that
Right.
like literally I'm drawing up the game plan. Like even last season, not last season, season 1 MMA
Yeah.
finals, like I had to literally and I'll let me expose this real quick, because a lot of people always ask me, like, why didn't you guys want to play that night we did the podcast? The reason being is because I'm going up against Austin White. I need to plan. Like I wanted to go watch film. That's exactly what I needed. That I didn't know it was gonna take another week. Like, I
Right.
thought maybe, and of course my plan didn't know Elijah was gonna have to work to 12 o'clock every night, or that division was about to go off into elder school. Like I didn't know any of these things were happening. But my thought process was, because we had just got into the finals maybe the night before, maybe the night before, and then the next day, JP's like, "Oh, let's play. Let's get this thing done." I'm like, "No, I need time to go back and look at what are you guys doing? Like, what sets are you running? What are you doing with Tyler? What are you doing with, like, what do you like to do?" Which then once I kind of figured it out, it was like, okay. But even in game 1, you came in and threw like stuff that I hadn't even seen before, like with the raps and other stuff. So it was like, oh my goodness, this guy is always do like IQ wise, like I love going. It's like you brought up chess. It's almost like playing chess. Like who can create the mismatches, who can recognize the mismatches, who can then from a defensive standpoint, once you see like, okay, they're attacking us this way, what can we do differently? So like what makes you like so high in that way? Because the two and the 7 trips and only that's you're only one person.
Right.
So you have to do what you do best. And a lot of times nobody's ever going to blame also because you're always going to show up. But like, why is that so high end for you? Like your attention to detail is the word I would use.
Yeah, I think it just depends on the team around me. Depending on the style that we want to run or that we can run. You know, the offense we ran season one, I'd never ran just a PNR offense before. Um, but I also never ran with a center like what Division had.
Right.
So it was an adjustment for me, just trying to learn how to even use screens properly, how to draw
Yeah.
up different designs for, you know, and I have a guy like a Tyler or a JP who are both kind of really solid, you know 3-point shooters,
Oh, yeah.
especially Tyler, who's probably like the best the league has had. How do I incorporate them off of this PNR?
Yes.
Um, Miami, I always say this. I wish we could have used him on the shooting guard he ran on this season.
Ooh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because his other build, which I don't know a lot of people know, is not only had like 50 dunk.
They have no dunk at all.
It have
Yeah.
no really. He
No.
had like close shot, but like no layup or dunking out like that.
Yes. Yeah.
So he's kind of limited in his, what I can do with him slashing wise.
Yep.
But we need his defense on that build. We need his defense. We need his rebounding.
Yep.
Um, so, but really just trying to figure out how to get those three guys involved in an offense I'd never ran before. To this season, I had been the build I ran on the playoffs. I didn't run on all season. So going into, that game against BG's team, I kind of went back to my roots and was like, all right, this is how I know I can attack them.
Yeah.
If they're expecting something else, they're not going to be ready for it. And that's kind of how it wasn't anything in the like chamber I hid for the season, but it was just something between me and Ross talking was something that we
Yeah.
thought would give us kind of the competitive advantage.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to like, yes, it's a video game. It's a video game.
Mm,
We're playing for fun. Like some people don't, they just want to jump on and just want to play. Man, listen, if you're trying to win, if you're doing a league, you're spending money on 2K, you're spending time on a league. Invest the time to plan, to talk about it.
yeah,
Like regular season, maybe not so because I all the teams I ever played on, I've been to 3 finals, and all the teams I ever played on, like we always sucked in the regular season. We always struggled in the regular season. But like when the playoffs came around, once I had enough footage on everybody, man, we're gonna talk about it. Like let's
yeah,
like where is this person weakness? Who do we attack in the zone? This person reaches too much. They sink in. And a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people don't do that. So anyway, I'm not gonna let's wrap it up. I'm about to get ready to wrap it up. But we're gonna
yeah,
play
yeah,
some
yeah, yeah.
quick hitter games. We're gonna play some quick hitter games before you go.
Okay,
So
all right,
number one, when you hear, I'm gonna say something. When you hear it, when you whatever it may be, think of the first person that you think of. All right,
gotcha.
most clutch.
Dejounte,
Most clutch free throw shooter.
anyone but Kevin. Um,
I got another
uh,
clutch shooter.
uh, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Yote.
Most underrated or undervalued player.
Underrated. I'm gonna go Darius.
Mm,
I'm gonna go real. He's really underrated.
yeah, I like that. I like that. That's a hidden. I love the hidden gems. I've heard a few hidden gems when I ask that question. That's a hidden gem. Um, what about most likely to sell you at the 3-point line? You're a point guard. You kick it to the corner. And if you need to say me, you can say it. Most likely to sell you at the 3-point line.
Just because he's done it before, I want to go Robbie.
Oh man, yeah, Robbie. Most loud, most talkative person.
Can I say two?
Yeah,
Chris and Greg
Chris and Greg.
together
Yeah, they
in
do
the same
talk.
chat.
Oh yeah. That them and
That
them
duo.
together. Yeah, them
Yeah.
together. It's like because one throws the lob, then the other one
The
dunks,
other,
and
yeah.
then they're
Yeah,
both.
it's Braun and Wade when it comes to talking.
Oh, for sure. All right, so most overrated. That I say underrated. Yeah, most overrated player.
Overrated. It's gonna be interesting just because of the ones not playing the game much, but I want to go with Petty
Petty.
right now.
At this point, yeah,
At this point, 2K24 Petty.
yeah,
I think it's kind of off reputation right now.
yeah, yeah.
More than anything.
And the crazy thing is, he would 110% agree with you. Because he knows, like, I mean, he just hasn't devoted. It's not nothing
Right.
to do with him at all. We
Yeah,
know
yeah, yeah,
he just
yeah,
has
yeah.
devoted
20,
that time.
22 Petty, probably the best center I've ever ran with.
Oh, for sure. The
Um,
standard. I always call him the standard.
23, he kind of went a little lax, and same
Yeah,
with 24. So
yeah.
his reputation is still up there. So just based off reputation, I'm gonna go with him for right now.
All right. So we're gonna create a Voltron. And what this looks like is you can use anybody but yourself. Can't use
Okay.
cards more than one time. But we're gonna take these are the categories that you're gonna steal from this player to basically create this one my player, one with the Voltron of all players.
All
These
right.
categories: handles, scoring, playmaking, finishing, and defense. So number one, who handles you taking?
Set.
Sat handles. All right. So scoring, 3 level. Who's going to be the guy who puts the bucket, gets the bucket?
Ajante.
All right. And playmaking, who's setting up the table?
Ace.
Ooh, ace. Yeah. 24 assists in a playoff game. Whew. Oh, no, that was a regular season game. But
Right.
average
Yeah.
about 15 to 16 assists. Yeah.
Right. Yep. I'm gonna go Ace.
Tough. Finishing. This is going to be dunking, acrobating, all this, laying up with everything.
I'm gonna go Tay
Tay. Oh, good one.
because you mentioned the acrobating, and
Yeah.
with the I've seen him on certain builds with just high layup, and then can also with dunking. I'm gonna go right now off 2K24. I'm gonna go Tay.
Okay. All right. And last but not least, defense.
Yo.
Yoke. Oh man, you said that easy. Yoke. Easy. Yeah. So handles, you got Sat. Scoring, you're getting Ajante. Playmaking, you're getting Ace. Finishing, you're getting Tay. And defense, Yoke. That's tough. That's a tough Voltron. We're gonna have to put this Voltron up against some others. I can't
Yeah.
wait. We're gonna see. We're gonna. Hey, this one's good. I like this one. So last thing, and we'll let you go. So this one's gonna be Austin's best lineup. So you're gonna create a team. You're gonna be on this team. First off, you're gonna pick what position you're gonna play, and then you're gonna put the surrounding pieces around you and what position they'll play. So number one, what position will you be at?
I can pick the team. I'm going
Now,
center.
hold on. Let me make sure I set this
Yep.
up. Now, this is
Yep.
this is a this is a death beam. The world is about to
Yep.
end.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Like we need our best team.
I got center.
Okay, so you're gonna play center. All right.
Yep.
So who's running the point? Who's setting up the table?
Sat is running point.
Okay. 2.
Tyler Coleman at the 2.
Sniper alert. Don't leave them. 3.
Bullock
On lock, I'm assuming.
on lock.
On lock at the top of the yeah. And then last but not
And
least, power forward.
power forward is Terrence doing back end.
Oh yeah. That is a rough and tough team. So Sat at the point, Tyler at the 2, Ajante at the 3, Terrence at the 4, you at the 5. All of these players are very high IQ players as well. So like that is going to be a tough team. I feel safe. I think we'll live. Avengers. I think the Avengers will assemble. Hey man, well listen, bro. I appreciate you joining, man.
I appreciate the
Taking the
invite.
time out, your busy schedule with the baby, the wife, everything else you got, work, everything else you got going. I appreciate you taking the time off. For the people, we appreciate you listening in. We hope you enjoy.
Yep.
And watch your narrative. Once again, this is Truth by Rome. All of our episodes usually will drop on a Monday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Also, we have our normal podcast, Watch Your Narrative podcast, where we talk more about the NBA. That usually drops on a Thursday. Once again, 7 a.m. 8 Eastern. You can also find us outside of YouTube. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Apple Music, et cetera, wherever you can find all your podcasts. Hey, man, we appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you. Watching Narrative, we out.